Welcome everyone. So thank you for being here. We're going to start in a second. So welcome everyone again. My name is Flo. I'm Corporate Innovation Manager for the US branch of True Spares region. I'll be your host today for our tech meeting dedicated to artificial intelligence. Please note that this session will be recorded. So sorry, I'm removing you, Patrick, until later. So this session will be recorded, so please let me know if anyone would be against it. I'm going to share the presentation, and we're going to start with our agenda. All right, so here is our agenda for today. After a short introduction of what we do, I'll provide some key figures about the artificial intelligence industry. Then we will move to the fireside chat with our experts today, Tom Allen and Patrick Bangert, to discuss the industry and tomorrow's big trends of innovation. Then we will have a selection of innovative companies presenting their solutions and products to finish this event. We'll answer questions at the end of the fireside chat if you have any to our experts. Then you'll be able to react and ask some questions after the presentations of the startups. So feel free to use the question feature of Livestorm to ask your question. Lorenzo, I'm going to come back to you later. All right, great. So let's jump into it with a short presentation of True Spares region and what we do. For some of you who don't know us, True Spares region is a catalyst for business and innovation. We partner with Fortune 500 corporations in order to support international companies willing to expand and set up business in the Paris region. Thanks to our presence and vibrant tech ecosystem located in San Francisco, as you can see here, New York, Beijing, Shanghai, and of course Paris, we are in touch with over 4,000 international companies every year. This unique relationship with large corporations on one hand and with innovative, fast-growing companies on the other hand led us to create the Global Open Innovation Network about 5 years ago. And through this global program, we organize about 20 events a year to foster business and technology partnerships between large corporations and startups. Since the pandemic moved our events online, it allowed us to connect and get in touch with more people, more companies. So it has been a pretty interesting experience. In terms of technologies and topics, we cover a narrow of them. As you can see here, it's mobility, AI, retail, health, smart cities, and you name it. So today we are going to talk about artificial intelligence. So first, I wanted to show you a brief overview of the artificial intelligence industry. And of course, it's composed of different actors from various industries. It's Amazon, it's Apple, Google, OpenAI, DeepMind, IBM, etc., etc. But we can also find a lot of actors in sectors like finance or transportation. We'll actually have some examples during the startup presentations. Here are the key figures I wanted to share today. I wanted to stop on 3 main figures really quickly to set up the base of our discussion with the panel of experts. First, today, the global artificial intelligence market size is valued around $93 billion based on a PwC report. Something important as well is that by 2028, the revenue forecast is expected to reach $997 billion as AI is being used and implemented in more and more spaces. And last, the compound annual growth rate for the AI industry is expected to be around 40% from 21 to 28. So we can see the main predictions here, and they will raise over and over in the coming years based on other industries using more and more AI elements. Those trends and industry where AI is a prominent trend today As we can see here, it's the healthcare industry, the transportation with autonomous vehicles, for example. It's finance, and it's manufacturing. So to finish this brief overview of the artificial intelligence industry, I wanted to share this non-exhaustive market map with you. We designed it based on different players we have identified on the market. It's missing a few actors, of course, but it gives us a good understanding on what's happening these days. I don't want to get into too much details. So if you're interested or have a question, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to share it with you or tell you how I built it. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our two experts today. So Patrick and Tom, if you can join me on stage.
Hi.
Hi, Patrick. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. And we're just going to wait for Tom, and then we're gonna start the discussion today. Tom, if you can just like click on participate, so you can join us. Great. So thank you again for accepting my invitation. Meanwhile, we wait for Tom. I'm very excited to have you to discuss the different topics today. Hey Tom, how you doing?
Great to be here today. Thank you for having me. Really excited.
Great. Perfect. Well, thank you again for accepting my invitation. First of all, and to give maybe some context to the audience, maybe you could both present yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, the organization you're representing, and your I don't know, current projects or initiatives. Yeah. Patrick, do you want to start maybe?
Okay. Well, hello everybody. Nice to meet you all virtually, and thank you for the invitation to be here. My name is Patrick. I'm a mathematician by training, so I've been in artificial intelligence since I got my PhD in it. I first really focused on analyzing time series with a view to do predictive maintenance type use cases in the infrastructure industry. And I did that around Germany. So I'm German by origin, and so I had the opportunity to visit Paris on numerous occasions, working with EDF, your national electricity provider. So that was definitely a great experience in doing artificial intelligence in Paris. So definitely thumbs up for the region on that one. In the meantime, I've moved to San Jose in California, which is not too bad either, but doesn't come close to Paris, of course. And I now run the AI department at Samsung SDS. SDS is the IT company of Samsung Group. So while you might know Samsung as a manufacturer of consumer electronics, SDS runs the data centers that are the backbone of you being able to use your phone. We write the software, and we also do the artificial intelligence, where we cover use cases from vision, time series modeling, audio processing, time series forecasting, all sorts of things. And my newest baby is medical AI, where we look at medical images, CT scans, MRI scans, and try to hopefully not find your brain tumor.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely come back on that. Thank you. Definitely thank you, Patrick. Yeah, Tom, you wanna go?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. And Flo, Patrick, it's great to be here with you and the audience. So my name's Tom Allen. I'm the founder at AI Journal, and my background is predominantly in marketing. So marketing and PR, leading marketing teams within in engineering and within telecommunications, and founded AI Journal just a little bit over a year ago, and really now scaling up to having a free open source information hub. So to educate people around AI and emerging technologies, cloud, data, IoT, and excited to have everyone along for the journey. So We publish anything from reports, which we touched on AI in healthcare. We've looked at AI in a post-COVID world, fintech and insurtech, VR, AR, and many more, such as AI in sports. And really exciting because my view and my passion to build this platform really came from when I went into an engineering role and I was all of a sudden chucked at new technologies I hadn't learned before, such as machine vision, looking at how robotics are used on automation lines, and really from there to help as many people as possible through the platform to learn about it in a free, accessible way, whether that's from people such as the heads of AI at BMW, right through to Google Cloud engineers, to show what the new insights are and to share those and give an honest viewpoint on where we are and what we can look forward to. So it's a real pleasure to be here with you today. And Patrick, I'm excited to learn from you. And Flo, again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being here. Great. Well, we can definitely start. I had a first question. It's actually a very general question, and maybe for you, Tom.
Yeah.
And like we can see right now that AI is a pretty wide subject, that can be found in many topics, many different industries. We used to talk about AI, like alone, but it's also, like deep tech, it's machine learning, and it's included in finance, healthcare, robotics, and so on. So, first question I wanted to ask you, like, what is an AI company today?
Sure. I'm happy to take this. So AI company, to me, we see quite a lot of them all the time, from startup to companies that are building their own internal teams to handle AI. And really just to quickly look at AI and what it is, whenever you're using it, people can overcomplicate the topic, but really it's to allow you to do things better, give you better predictions, give you more insight, allow you to leverage more data at a quicker rate. And I mean, like you touched on, Flo, there's AI companies popping up left, right, and center that can do anything from machine vision, learning, understanding documents that might be needed in insurance so you can process claims quicker. So an AI company really, as a vendor, is something that you can build into your platform and you can build into your software or your service to allow you to do things quicker, but normally at a cheaper rate over time. So it will compound, and to allow it to give you better data insights to achieve more, drive quicker results, and become more valuable to your marketplace, to give you better results for your customers. And not only that, to give a better customer experience, because obviously, as we might know, machine learning, you can understand at a rate that a human possibly couldn't, and they can learn a lot of data points to give you that information to really show how you're the best in the marketplace and deliver more results, is how I'd look at it.
Yeah, definitely. Patrick, did you wanna add something to that?
I completely agree with Tom on this one, and the big overriding thing is automation. AI is not magic. You can do it by hand if you just invested enough time and effort and people into it. But AI provides automation, which saves time. It saves people's efforts. It does things that are repetitive with large amounts of data, and really that's the key. So if you're looking at an AI company, typically companies focus either on the part that makes the tools that allows other people to make the models, or it focuses on making a model for some particular use case. And at that point, you're no longer talking about AI, you're talking about the use case and how automation in that use case can be of some sort of value. Right? AI is then just the mechanism. Yeah. It's like if we were talking on going to holiday in Paris, right? And how to get there. The fact that I need to either take a car or an airplane is really not important. And that's AI, right? AI is the transport vehicle to get to some sort of economic destination.
Yeah. I'm nicking that quote, by the way. That's a very good way of rounding it up, Patrick. I like that. So very
later. Yeah, great. Yeah, definitely. So and another big trend, like in the AI space is that people talk a lot about like the directionality of innovation in the AI space. Because a lot of people talk about like the rate of growth or the rate of innovation, and it's also important to discuss the direction of growth and the direction of innovation, right? In the AI space. Patrick, what's the direction you can see on in the industry right now? Where is it headed?
Well, the major use case that's been pushed for a number of years, and I think the major use case that will hit the consumers in the next 3 to 5 years is autonomous vehicles. Yeah. And I would say that for the past 5 years and at the moment, at least 50%, if not more, of the financial backing of artificial intelligence worldwide was directly connected with the autonomous vehicle. So that's really where it is headed, if there is such a thing as an it. So beyond that, I think the next big use case is healthcare, which is what we're focusing on. I think there you can deliver a lot of value, not just economical value, but life quality value to individual people, keeping you healthier longer, treating you better if you do get sick. I think that is where it's headed.
Okay, yeah, big trend in the industry, of course, and great, yeah. So talking about like healthcare actually, and those like innovation, like big trends, I would say, like what are like some of the most like important like specificities in healthcare projects, like compared to other AI projects such as like banking or manufacturing? Is there like some specificities like to healthcare?
Well, obviously the accuracy requirement is very high. The damage done if you make a mistake is possibly lethal. And so topics like ethics and explainability become much more important, right? If you get denied for a loan, many countries have now instituted a law requiring the bank to explain why you've been rejected, but ultimately you've been rejected, so big deal, right? But if I diagnose you with cancer and expose you to chemotherapy and it turns out I got that wrong, that's a big deal. Or the opposite, right? I say you're cancer free and then you die. So that, I think, is the big difference, which has ramifications on the two big research areas, explainability and ethics in AI right now, and of course the accuracy requirement, which is kind of the principal thing that drives how much data you need, how good the data needs to be, how well labeled it has to be, and so on and so forth. And so the burden is very heavy.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Tom, yeah, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, so I was just thinking back to your point, Patrick, about what I kind of see the direction of it, and very well pointed out on how do you get it exactly right, because it's the two sides of it, right? You could either fall over really bad or you could over justify what you're doing. And I think the big key area I see in the roadmap going forward, and we see it with a lot of companies, they don't necessarily have a roadmap for how they want to use it 5-10 years from now. They kind of see it as some gimmick, thinking, oh, well, if I use a load of RPA, I can digest this information quicker. I can make all my accounts payable automated. But they don't look at the people side. And I think that's becoming a huge, huge challenge. And that's why I'm big on autonomous vehicles are great. But if you hear me talk about VR and AR, it's an area that I'm exploded with, because it's something that happens with education, right? So whether you're looking at an algorithm, or whether you're looking at a building plan, or whether you're looking at a person on the operating table, and you can be able to use AR to see through and where it's going, that's where I find it such an important angle, so we can mitigate those problems that Patrick's very well pointed out on how do you take that responsibility. And I think it's something we're going to touch on later, of saying, well, although you used AI, it's still down to the human fault, because everything, people want to blame AI and they say, how do we make responsible AI? Well, AI is built off people, right? It's built off that data they feed them. So naturally, you should become a better person and use it for the right reasons. You'll have naturally a better AI algorithm, or you'll have a better way of doing things. So I think it always goes back to that. And my key thing for the market going ahead, yes, we look at the size of it, but do we understand what the uses are going to be and how it can help and what it can be? I see a lot of AI companies getting funding, and I don't really understand what they're trying to achieve. And I just think you've just been given $2 million for something. I don't understand how it's going to integrate into other businesses properly, because another company, and I think you're seeing it a lot with the big companies, the Googles, the Microsofts, they're either looking for acquisition because they know they can go build that technology. And I think if you put people at the center of it, that's going to be the real change. And I think that's the direction people are missing. They're forgetting that you can build in this fancy technology, but then if you don't have the right team, how are you going to handle that technology? So I think it's a really important point for companies and businesses, especially from what I see, to take on board to points like healthcare.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you talk about like those industries or like spaces where it's booming, right?
Yeah.
So how can you explain that some areas are like suddenly experience their like AI moment, these days? Because just one example, like one of the biggest one is biology, for example. It's like based on like a report, like there were like over 21,000 papers published in 2020 alone in biology, in the biology space. So it's like a growing space of 50% year to year since 2017. So we can see that there are like spaces where they experience their like AI moments. So how can we explain that, really?
Well, I think really when you look at AI and companies using it, there is a bit of a cool kid on the block kind of moment where people are thinking, oh my God, we can use this for this, but not really thinking about how they can properly use it. And I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of problems. I don't know when, maybe 5 years, maybe a year, where people are building it and they just haven't got the infrastructure, or they haven't looked at how they properly want to use AI. So I think we are in a very big buzz moment. I mean, I read that last year in 2020, there was $1 billion of investment in AI startups up to Series A each week, just in the US. So just in the US, $1 billion each week, just on startups, let alone the bigger companies that are at 50 million, 100 million, 200 million. And I think that just proves to me, and I'm sure it's going to be bigger through 2021, that these companies are popping up. And although it's great, I don't think all of them are going to be needed. And I don't think you need AI for all the aspects that you want. I mean, I always use the example, we could automate the DLR line in London, which is, we've automated, the DLR line in London. We could easily automate all the other tube stations as well. We could easily get rid of people that don't need to drive them because we've done it. But you think it's having that people approach. And I just can't see it at the moment where we're going to get that sophisticated with AI. And I think we're almost trying to run before we can walk in some aspects where we don't properly understand it. And I think a lot of AI companies that are here today, unfortunately, won't be here 10 years from now because they won't, or they'll have been snapped up by another company and had it integrated to their other business. And that's really interesting point, to not get caught up in the buzz and think, are we doing this for the right reasons? Are we building this software for the right purposes? And I'd love to know, Patrick, on your kind of angle from within Samsung, because I'm sure, and I could be jumping here and guessing, but I'm sure there's areas you could be applying AI, but it wouldn't necessarily make any sense. And it would be kind of jumping on a bandwagon to say a PR stunt. Hey, we can use AI for X, Y, Z. Yeah, it makes no sense. I'd love to know.
Definitely, I agree with you fully. But the rule of startups, of course, is that out of 10 startups, 8 will be bankrupt within 2 years. The 9th will be in the land of the living dead, and only 1 will succeed in some way. And maybe 1 out of I don't know how many thousand will see real exponential growth. Right? Every founder wants that Facebook moment, but it's actually extremely rare. It's like winning the gold medal at the Olympics, right, for an ordinary sports person, to get that growth. So startup founders need to know that. The vast majority of them will go bankrupt soon. I know we're at a founding event, but that realism is necessary. And Flo, with that growth of papers, what we also have to realize is that there is a publisher perish culture ongoing among academics right now, and it has been for the last 20 years. So some areas are finding out, hey, wait a minute, if I publish an AI paper, I can do 4 or 5 papers a year, no problem. Whereas prior to that, I needed to do all this biology and whatnot in the laboratory. I needed to work, right? My goodness, how easy is life now? I write an algorithm, n = 1 is my first paper, n = 2 is my second paper. and they get accepted by peer review. So that's what I do. So most of the papers you find out there actually add such little incremental value that you can safely ignore them, right? But if I make a model that improves upon yours by 0.01% in accuracy, it'll get published. But is it useful? Probably not.
Yeah, I see it. I see it that way. Okay, I understand now. Of course. Yeah. So moving on to like another big trend of innovation in the AI space. Of course, we cannot talk about innovation without talking about the autonomous vehicles. You know, it's one of the big revolution, and it's coming. We know it's like right around the corner. And AI takes a big role in there. I just wanted to, like for the audience, to know exactly the role of AI in autonomous vehicles. We can actually kind of like picture it, but what's the role of AI in autonomous vehicles? Tom, you want to go ahead?
Well, I mean, when I look at it, and I'm sure Patrick will have some good ways to look at it as well, but I mean, you use this fundamentals of what machine learning can do, right? You can learn things, and you can use vision to understand where it is. And I mean, you can use things like LiDAR. And I mean, Tesla, I think, are just using it as more of a PR stunt to say they don't use LiDAR. But really, when you're looking at it from that angle, it can just take in observations of what you're doing to understand traffic flow, to understand where a pedestrian is, and processing that information in a very correct manner, which I think is why autonomous driving, to me, is a very interesting area because of the safety aspect, right? So to look at how it's going to make it safe to drive, safe to go, safe to cross the street, because you know a car will pick it up, someone else could have spilt their coffee or look at it. And AI is constantly learning from that, and it's learning routes, it's learning patterns, and it's learning ways to think, okay, that's where we can go, that's what we can do. And I think that's ultimately what it's going to be able to achieve to get you places safer, which is why it's so exciting, regardless of, I can do my laptop and everything while driving on the motorway or whatever it might be, or maybe we'll get to a stage of flying cars, who knows. But it's really the health side there, the safety side is big to me, and understanding how a car can just stop, read a traffic light and think, okay, we need to stop now, pedestrians can cross, and it gives you that reassurance that you don't need to over the long term look out for your child in case it runs across the road, because a car knows, it can predict, it can see, it can scan, it can use sensors, and it's obviously always the key thing about AI, always learning, always understanding it better, understanding your route, understanding where you stop for your coffee, understanding what your optimal route to work. And I think that's going to lead to all sorts of cost savings across infrastructure, such as a wider topic like smart cities, and understanding where it's going to be interconnected. And I mean, that's why people are seeing 5G being a huge thing, and 6G is going to be even bigger, because it allows that quick transfer of data for the key reason, safety. So I don't know what your point of view is, Patrick, but looking at it from a kind of vision perspective, and how it can, how AI is just learning your routes basically and making you a safer driver.
Yeah, I mean, if we ask what's the role of AI in autonomous vehicles, it's really, let's turn it around. What's the role of the human driver in driving? Right? All the car really does is propel you. Everything else is done by the driver. The driver decides where to turn left or right. The driver decides when to slow down and to speed up, how to turn the steering wheel, which gear to use if you have a stick shift car. All that is now being done by AI. It tries to detect where are the other cars so that you don't bump into them. Where is the lane? What are the traffic signals and signs? How to get you from A to B safely. So safety is a big part of the sales pitch, of course. And I think that definitely AI can, deliver a couple of orders of magnitude of increased safety. I look at AI more from the automation perspective. Okay. So I personally have a half an hour's commute to the office one way. If I had an autonomous vehicle, that would give me 1 hour every day back to do something else rather than driving. And that's just commuting, right? if I want to go on a holiday, we drove to Yosemite National Park over the long weekend, and that's a 4-hour trip one way. That would have given me 8 hours back to do something else other than staring at the road. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
The other aspect is car ownership, right? If I know that at the click of a button, I can get a car that will take me from A to B, then I will do that. Of course, previously that was known as a taxi. These days it's known as maybe Uber or Lyft, but it has a couple of big disadvantages. First of all, another person is present, right? So I can't have private conversations, confidential conversations, and so on, while that other person is in the car. Secondly, the cost of that trip is dominated by the cost of the person who is doing the driving, right? That will go away. It will become far cheaper to order an autonomous vehicle taxi than it is to order a human-driven taxi. On the basis of that, why should I own a car? That will mean the number of cars on the road and in existence will go down. That means the parking lots can get smaller. That means the density of services in cities can increase. That means that CO2 release, etc., will decrease, and so on and so forth. So this has a lot of implications that I think AI is the absolute foundational enablement layer to all of this.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And all this, like intelligence, like artificial intelligence in those autonomous vehicles, like lead, to the question, which is like always the question. It's one of the big subjects today is who's responsible, because we can see that NIO plans to launch its own like autonomous cars soon. And they are cheaper, way cheaper than Tesla. And of course, Tesla is still on the market, obviously. This means that like AI will penetrate even more areas of life, which has like important consequences for all of like humanity, I could say. So it's bringing the concept we've been talking for a long time now, and it's a big trend. It's responsibility.
Yeah.
So my question is like, who's responsible? Tom,
Well,
who's responsible?
Yeah, from my point of view, it's always the person. I mean, I read the book, and there's a book I recommend the audience and both of you to read is The Weapons of Mass Destruction by Cathy O'Neill. And it's a fantastic book because it looks at how using big data or AI and using algorithms to look at the bad sides. And I mean, Patrick, you touched on it earlier, looking at it in finance, and I heard it on a conference yesterday. I mean, you can get people that go into this evil cycle. That's done by AI, because if they have a bad credit rating or whatever, and they apply for a job, and this job sends it off to an agency that uses AI to track them, it starts flagging up risks of, well, this person might not pay on time, this person might not turn up to work on time, we're not giving them a job, that puts them further down the credit risk line, then they can't get a mortgage or whatever on, and it has these knock-on effects. And that is, how do we make the AI responsible to let people know that your past doesn't equal your future if you're looking at it from that kind of angle? So although it's saying, oh, well, this person might do this, it can predict. It doesn't know. It can only predict what's going to come out. And I think when we look at AI and responsible AI, it comes back to me. People create AI. It's not like it just got given to us out of thin air, like it's, this algorithm just popped up out of nowhere. People develop them to what's the outcome, what results do you want to drive, and what do you want to do. And I think that's why ethics is becoming such a huge topic, right? Because people are realizing that maybe the people, I don't know, I haven't got any insider information on this, but people building the algorithms maybe aren't the best people to be building them, or maybe not doing it the right ideas in place. You see it in banking. People are hacking their own banks because they want to make sure that someone else can't come in and start making money transfers, or know your customer and know different things. And I think it all comes down to, why are you doing it? And unfortunately, people out there aren't going to use this. I mean, they say the biggest causes, the biggest problems, it shouldn't be war or anything. It should be things like AI, because those kind of things you can leverage it massively. I mean, we've had a lot of tensions that constantly come across from somewhere like China or somewhere where it might pop up, and they can take that information. And I think it's up to the users to be responsible with how they want to use it. And if people point to me and say, well, the technology, I say it's the user. What do you want to build it for, and how do businesses want to use it? My point on the banking and the on the job perspective, you shouldn't use AI to determine whether someone's right or wrong, I don't think. And I'd love to know what your viewpoint is, Patrick, because how can AI tell me if someone's good or not? I think I would always trust gut instinct and always trust the personality side, not thinking, oh, it's right or wrong because an AI algorithm told me. It can also be very wrong. I mean, look at what COVID taught us, right? So all people's predictions, we're going to do X amount of sales, we're going to do this because an AI algorithm taught us. That went out the window as soon as COVID hit, because it didn't predict COVID, did it? So I'd love to know what your kind of viewpoint is, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, who's responsible is a very important question, and I think couple of important things to realize is that governments and regulators are always behind in this development, right? So AI companies are pushing these technologies. Autonomous vehicles are to some extent already available with Tesla, and will be fully available very soon. But countries and governments have not made the legal frameworks available yet for these technologies. That is a huge problem, because the technologies are here. Governments need to speed up in making up their minds on what's the deal, on who's responsible. The other thing is, academically speaking, responsible AI, ethical AI, what you want to call it, is a very, very important research area that is in its absolute infancy.
Yeah. So,
if you want to make your mark on AI, that's probably it. Figuring out who is responsible is a very difficult question. A fundamental point that everybody needs to realize, makers of AI and users of AI and the general public, every AI model, without any exception, will make errors.
Yeah.
The only question is how many. So will people die from autonomous vehicles? Absolutely, yes, they will die. The question is how many. And will you be one of them? So who's responsible? If we make the developers of the AI model responsible for the deaths of people, this will occur. Most definitely it will occur. And if the governments find them responsible, then they are responsible for the future deaths, which are guaranteed to occur. It's merely a question of when and where and how many.
Yeah.
So that would be a problem, because then you would make people guilty before the crime, effectively. So I see this being a very, very difficult challenge. I don't have a good answer for it. I'm just pointing out the limitations that, if there's a human driver behind an actual steering wheel, you can delegate this responsibility. But many of the autonomous vehicles that are being designed today, that will be available to you in the next couple of years, no longer have a steering wheel, don't have an accelerator in them. They are a living room on wheels. And then you can no longer delegate any responsibility to the driver, because there won't be a driver. But you also can't delegate the responsibility to the manufacturer either, because the manufacturer cannot a priori be responsible for all this. So people are going to have to accept, just like they do today, getting in a car is a risky business.
Yeah, that's very true. But just a further question, actually, because you talk about ethical AI or responsible AI, explainable AI, and I mean, we don't have any other field where we need to add those subjects to the main field. So that does it already tell us that there's a problem here?
No. Ethics has a role to play in virtually every sphere of life, not just AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree as well. I think it's anything you do, you should be doing it for the right reason. I mean, develop a new product, develop a new service, go out, whatever it is you're doing. Like Patrick pointed out, that's what frustrates me when I see ethical AI, because you just think it's shouldn't we want to be using it for the right things? I mean, obviously we've got the risks, but it's a huge point to think, why do you want to use it? What's the ethical side to it? What's the ethical implication? So, yeah.
Yeah. And so another question then, so how will those risks and downsides of AI be managed so that society can actually benefit from the like the transformational impact it offers?
Patrick?
Yeah, well, this is exactly the point of ethical AI, right? Ethical AI isn't some bumper sticker that says, let's be ethical, or let's use it for the right reasons. No, it's a research area, genuine, large research area that attempts to find out how to deal with the ethical problems. And because it's in its infancy, there are no good answers to these questions at this time, right? They're aspirational qualities here of, we would like to be responsible, we would like to be ethical, but what does that mean in the context where you have an inanimate object making decisions for you in real time, right, based on historical data collected elsewhere? That's a new problem, right? The ethical problem of, should we give the COVID vaccine to everybody whether they want it or not? That's a different ethical question, but people have been looking at that ethical question for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
We can read Socrates about questions like that, but nobody has been thinking about what to do with a robot. And so there's a new area developing.
Yeah. Classic question, should you pay a robot? Should you give a robot a minimum wage?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, great. Another subject which is related, of course, is explainable AI. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about explainable AI and how it's different, from what we've talked about, and how it's related, of course? Maybe Tom, yeah.
I think I'd like to hear from Patrick on this one, actually, because I think you'll have a bit more insight than from a Samsung point of view, rather than I would. I'd love to hear your answer.
Well, typically AI gives you the answer to the question, right? You ask for, should I get approved, or should I approve this loan applicant in a bank, yes or no? Okay. And the outcome is no. Well, 20 years ago, you would have gotten a no as well, but you would have gotten it from the bank manager, and then you would have asked, why? Help me so that I can improve my whatever status, so that in a year from now you'll say yes, right? And then the bank manager would have explained that it's down to this, that, and the other, and you would have done that, and next year you would have gotten a yes. Well, AI doesn't do that. AI says no. End of story. Yeah. Now, you don't know what to do, and therefore you cannot improve your situation next year. And that's the critical point, right? You need feedback saying that, look, you need to take out an extra credit card and pay off some debts on it, so that you get an official credit rating that will improve over the next few months, so that when you come back in 6 months' time, I have data on you that says you've taken out a credit and you've paid it back. On that basis, I consider you credit worthy and give you, right? So that sort of explanation is important. And this loan example is an example where several governments around the world have instituted a law requiring that explanation. Right. There are plenty of other use cases where you would want an explanation. Let's say you go to the doctor because you feel pain somewhere. And the doctor tells you you've got a certain disease. You can ask the doctor, why do you say that, right? On the basis of what? Should I really take this medicine that has all these horrible side effects, right? And you go to the second doctor, you get a second opinion, and all that. If an AI diagnoses you with the disease, it's like, you've got cancer, period. That's not very helpful, right? You would want to know why. On the basis of what do you make that determination? How bad is it, right? How much time do I have? all those other outputs, that's explainable AI. And the consumer wants an explanation and deserves, in my opinion, an explanation for much of these outputs.
Yeah. But isn't that where chatbots can help though? Because chatbots can make it very, I mean, we see it in healthcare, like you're touching on, diagnosis, and they do explain. And I think that's quite a gap, quite an opportunity, because especially with people that say, oh, AI is going to take my job, or AI is this, or AI is that. I think it's more of a Achilles heel to say, well, it might give you the decision, but then it's up to X, Y, Z to tell you. And I mean, that's why I quite like chatbots, because they can understand, and they can understand the conversation and then give you feedback, right?
Right. Of course, it's then up to the developers to package the feedback in some digestible way. And of course, if you want to do it in actual sentences, then a chatbot could be the right way to deliver it.
Yeah. That's interesting. I love it, because sometimes you get a wrong conclusion from AI, and I always think AI is not always right. People think have this idea that it is, or it can always be the overseeing Terminator kind of sequence, and it's really not. And I think what you touched on as well, Patrick, is a real opportunity for founders in the audience to consider when they're building out their companies that use emerging technologies, to think, how can I actually have this help a user and give proper diagnosis, or proper reasons, or proper understanding, or proper buying patterns. And I really like that point. It's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So one question though, so does every AI model need to be explainable?
$1 million question. I'd say no. Yeah, maybe no, but with a caveat that it's always nice to know. I mean, it depends on the person, right? But I don't think so. I think sometimes it's fine to hear yes or no. But I mean, if I'm going to have something diagnose me and tell me I'm overweight, it might be nice to also have a follow-up saying this is what you need to eat and this is the diet plan you need to go on, based off a model. But other times, I mean, I use a simple thing. Do you need to do this right now? No. And I don't, like Patrick saying, I don't think you always need to have it explained to you. Not everything needs an explanation.
True, but those explainable models, are they linked to like ethics? Does AI have to be like understandable to be ethical? Is that like linked to you?
I'd say no again. And I don't know if I'd agree with that, but it's I don't think that AI needs to give you an answer to everything, and I don't think it should want to give you an answer to everything. I mean, that's why they say it's not creative, because that's if it can keep giving me everything and it can keep giving me reasons, well, then you jump to the conclusion, why the hell do I need anyone in my company, or why do I need this? And I think it's my answer is no. I don't know what Patrick's viewpoint is on it, but
yeah, same answer here. I think it depends on the use case, right? Yeah. So these kinds of questions of ethics or legality come in not with AI as such, but come in with the use case.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of ways to develop AI. For example, you buy a plane ticket, right? What's the price? That's an AI model.
Yeah.
But do I, as a consumer, need an explanation of why it's $1,000 to fly to the UK or to Paris? No. Does the airline owe me an explanation of that? Oh, certainly not. Okay. Is it ethical?
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in the case where, for example, a facial recognition system that's been trained on Caucasian faces is used in Africa, well, no, that's not ethical, and some explanation might be good. Yeah. It really depends on the use case.
Yeah. Especially when buying a product off the shelf, I don't always want to. I don't want to always a lecture on something why it's going to cost X, Y amount. It's just I want it, and that's that. So I love that point. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So Patrick, maybe how big corporations like Samsung SDS is dealing with those areas in like R&D and innovation, how they're dealing with those ethical or like explainable models, like how big groups are dealing with that on a daily basis, I would say. But
well, there are some companies that are not dealing with it. And I think there are some companies, and this is growing, and Samsung's one of them, that have a committee that discusses these things. So when you want to go for a new use case, develop an AI model for something that's supposed to be deployed in the world out there, there's a review board that looks at the ethics. So it's effectively like a pharmaceutical company or a biological company that needs to go through its ethical review. I think AI should have corporate processes that first look into its ethical and explainable use.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Great, Tom. Do you want to add something?
I'd like to know, Patrick, what within Samsung, how do you shape up and the team shape up with using AI on the ethics side? You said you've got a committee. Is it is it quite a big touch point in Samsung at the moment to think the whole ethics kind of point of view before you build a product or build a service?
It's definitely an important consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just fascinating, because I speak to a lot of companies, and sometimes that's why you see consultancies popping up, and they give no consideration to it, and they give no kind of thinking to it. They just all of a sudden pop out with a new business, and they think, well, back to our point earlier, and we both made a very good point on it, knowing the framework for where you want to be. And I mean, it's great to hear you're doing it, but my viewpoint would be to other founders to really consider that point for your roadmap going forward, because we deal with startups all the time and they just don't have a clue of what the ethics is going to be or what they're doing it for. So it's a really important consideration.
It is from various points of view, right? There's the point, just like with retail, if you put fair trade, it gives you an added value, right? If you were able to say I'm ethical for various good reasons, right, that gives you a boost in terms of sales. On the other hand, there is the primary goal of don't get sued.
Yeah. Don't shoot yourself in the foot.
All right. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time, because it's a very wide subject. I'd be happy to continue the discussion in another event with you guys, because it's very good input and insight. So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you again, Patrick, Tom, for your insight, and thank you again for accepting my invitation today. And definitely stay with us for the second part of our presentation today. Okay.
Will do. Thank you, Flo.
All right.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Flo. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so we're going to start our startup presentation. So first, Lorenzo, if you can join me on stage from NewtonX. Hey, how you doing, Lorenzo?
So I'm doing good. How are you?
Great. So yeah, you can definitely share your screen,
Yes.
and the stage is yours.
Share screen. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Lorenzo. I'm the head of finance at NewtonX, and thank you for inviting me, by the way. So I'm excited to join this event and share with you an overview of NewtonX, who we are, what is our technology, our products, and I will finish by sharing a few metrics and a timeline. So NewtonX's ambition is to become the world's leading B2B research company by disrupting the expert network industry. Our mission is to connect our clients with some professional experts, and these professional experts will provide them with tremendous insight, knowledge on any topic our clients are looking for. Our two co-founders, Germain and Sacha, met at McKinsey, and at that time, they identified a real gap between their need of insightful experts and the available technology on the market, as they realized that getting data points from multi-million expert network companies was very frustrating. Actually, they were facing issues because the process was very time-consuming, it was usually very expensive, and above everything, the quality of experts delivered was also very disappointing. So NewtonX was precisely created to provide a solution for the three issues: quality of experts, time to get the experts, and cost. So now more about NewtonX. Well, the idea behind this company was to put technology and AI at the heart of the process of targeting experts and to automate a lot of manual work to save costs and time. So in 2016, the company was created in 2016 with 2 people. As of today, we are a team of more than 75 people. We are based in New York, and we made expert sourcing scalable by using our own proprietary AI-driven tool that scans over 1.1 billion expert profile in what we call internally the NewtonX graph. So technology is really at the heart of the description. We leverage on AI, on APIs, so it saves times and effort to find experts. We have, for instance, 40 different search criteria to find any professional individual in the world. We deliver 2 main services. The first one is online surveys, and the second one is one-on-one phone call consultation. We are able to add a few bespoke consulting services on top of that. Online surveys is roughly 70% of our gross revenue. The graph is very impressive, 1.1 billion experts. Actually, as you can see, we can find them almost in every country in the world. And they cover almost every topic, every industry, from tech to healthcare, mining, and constructions. Our clients, most of our clients are part of Fortune 500 companies. Since 2016, we work with more than 160 clients. And yeah, they are part of Fortune 500, but we also work with top market research firm and top 3 consulting firm, top 3 social media companies, and technology firm. I'm pausing here a few seconds so that you get to know a few of our customers. So far, our clients are truly amazed by the quality of the experts we provided. We received a lot of kudos from them. And here is an example of Lenny Murphy, CEO of Green Book. For those of you who would be interested in having more insight, I left 2 slides in this presentation. The first one is a 1-pager slide on how the graph or technology work in 4 steps. The other slide is a 1-pager case study on how we'll help one of the top social media company to track its brand recognition and how we provide them with more than 4,000 marketing and ad professional experts in the market. Now, I wanted to share a timeline and a few metrics with you. So the most important item you have to keep in mind is that NewtonX is getting ready for the Series B. We actually just released a new platform internally that we named Cosmos that is helping us on leveraging more and scale even more on AI to target the experts. We plan to develop also an expert platform and a client platform. In terms of metrics, and more precisely in terms of revenue, well, our revenue is growing fast. In 2020, our revenue growth was more than 30% compared to 2019, and we reached 8.8 million in gross revenue. This was purely organic growth, but just so you know, in Q4 2020, we hired a brand new sales team to help us accelerating the growth. And since the beginning of 2021, our monthly revenue is anywhere between 1 million and 1.5 million. We just closed June actually at 1.5 million, which is the highest of all time. We are in a good shape to reach 1.7 million in August. And we are hoping that this growth will continue, and we plan to reach the 2 million mark in September. So with all this, we are hoping to close a Series B by the end of Q3 or Q4. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. Amazing solution. So I'll definitely share the presentation to our audience. So thank you again for presenting.
Sure. Thank you.
Great. So we're gonna continue with MoodMe. Chandra, if you can join me on stage. Just let me know, Chandra, if you can. Perfect. Hello, Chandra. How you doing?
Everything's fine. Can you hear me? Can you see everything?
I can see everything. I can hear you. It's all good. The stage is yours, Chandra.
Thank you for having me. I'm Chandra, co-founder of MoodMe, and I'm very excited to be with you today. MoodMe is a company focused on emotion analytics, and we provide insights from emotion analytics with AI that respects privacy and that is unbiased. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so we are focused on the analysis of emotions, and AI in terms of emotion analytics is providing a humanization layer of many applications, whether it's healthcare, measuring the patient experience, or in this Zoom or whatever tool we're using today, but let's say the Zoom epidemic, people are working from home, taking lectures, and what about the engagement of students, or are the co-workers feeling well engaged, or is there some mental health issues? So all these things about emotions are more and more important. Video games are now more and more interested in understanding the emotions of the gamers, and we are talking also about bridging the empathy gap of machines, of robots in general. So it's a big market, 25 billion, and nice double-digit compound annual growth rate. Yes, next slide. So yeah, the big problem we have across the board, and in particular in the verticals we're focused on, which is healthcare and education, is there is a lot of intelligence in all these software applications, but there is a lack of emotional intelligence. We don't know how people feel, we don't have data about that, and we therefore cannot take actions. Yeah, next slide. So the product that we have created is Edge AI. So all the artificial intelligence neural networks are working on the end user device, his or her smartphone, browser, or PC. Our product measures 7 emotions. Each of them is ranked on a scale of 0 to 100. So the happiness, surprise, angry, afraid, sad, disgusted, neutral, all these emotions, but we're also capturing demographic information, age and gender. All the data is anonymized and moved to our platform, which is providing actionable insights, ability to drill down at the individual level of each video call session, or aggregating the data, drilling down per emotion, and so on and so forth. So that's the big data analytics on the emotions of participants. All right, next slide. So what's unique about us? We combine all these artificial intelligence algorithm emotions, but also attention, gender, age, ethnicity detection more recently, and identification to be able to associate the right data to the right persons. So all this is running on the edge, any device. Privacy, no faces stored, big advantage also in terms of cost. We don't need to use cloud APIs, which cost a fortune at scale. And we have built our proprietary dataset from the ground up, unbiased dataset, so a very good mix of diversity in terms of ethnicities, gender, and age. We have 2 patents. We actually just won an IP litigation in the US, thicker skin and thinner wallet, if I can say, but we feel much better now. Next slide. So we have already customers. We do also augmented reality applied to the face, face filters, like massified by Snapchat. So we do that as an SDK. We have customers like FIFA, AT&T Final Four, Gucci for virtual try-on of eyewear, Qatar Airways using the emotion detection, and we just won the Altis 5G challenge and the Qatar Sports Tech Acceleration Program. Next slide. Yeah, a few customer stories. I will be very brief, but let's say the little dog that you can see, that's an emoji that we created for Gucci for the New Year of the Dog. So it's a few years back. Emotion detection and animation of a character following the facial expressions of the user. On any smartphone, you don't need the depth sensors of the iPhone X and so on. And the Qatar Airways you can see as well on the slide, which was a brand activation campaign. Yeah, next slide. So in terms of traction, so our platform, we are actually in the last stage of conversations with the T-Mobile Wellbeing Accelerator. I pitched 10 days ago. Looking forward to hear good news from them this week. We're in conversation with both Zoom and Salesforce to integrate our Emotion Analytics Edge client inside their video platform as a kind of plugin. And we have also an NDA with WebEx. We have 15 pilot customers at the moment, so it's a pre-revenue product. And we are also selling SDKs for emotion detection in particular, either an enterprise sales or also direct sales through the Unity App Store. In terms of team, I have a background in large tech companies, running global sales and delivery of projects for tech giants like Northrop, TRW, Software AG. My co-founder is university professor in AI at the University of Rome. We have 10 engineers and data scientists. We do research already with Texas A&M and the University of Mons. Okay. Yeah, you can skip that. I will to make sure we are on time. Yeah, that's basically summarizing. The emotion economy is a huge opportunity. There are many opportunities there, and we are doing it in a way that is respecting privacy with Edge AI and unbiased AI. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Chandra. That's a very, very nice solution, and it's very high tech. Thank you so much for presenting.
You bet. My pleasure.
Great. So before we finish our presentation today, I just wanted to share the agenda for the next session, and our next tech meeting will be on September 15th around new material. And so thank you again to all the presenters, and I hope to see you soon. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.